Wilfred EP Williams mangwas merela tial press conference lo ba ang lungu pastor
Malungil tuta president ma rogoil ministers ma beklap. Awera bodo lulu aktimo iwi atarabat silangara Psalm 121 sil 1 morapor mom lulu. Mulk mo aruba ka osab aklep. Agumes sel morarois ngol ngargel mei angal tsuwik. Angal tsuwik angara rubak kalmei. Ngigel milebiayang at ma utama. Diakalab ikaw mabamubu. Osab aklem adi makar. Osab aklela Israel, malupa osab aklela belaw, abia kalol ngolok malup elim iwayu. Abadolulu. Adamol Dios lola parokul klisi layang ma utama. Agi diol dang sergao emrenga sulem real tutau. Eli kaya rubak angarbab MCC kapkal etangak meang. Elegir rokul ngaringi layang at ma utama adi kloklem. Maring at kloklem rubak. Elega marreda rokul tokoy. Arokul si imailte ta amlar kaul mei. Esabem rulangi dila adol mo otangak la. Melal tutau agi merenga sulem ra tingem blam iwi. Kasi kamalmol mal isab akra blur belaw makamam. Agi di merenga sulem ra lukaruwim osab aklem. Tiyan nomrekal sandel gilel tiyal klol Ocean Conference naringi belaw. Agi merenga sulem ra geng lungu amel ka ulngel gilel aklung yole layang at maigir rogul mil katmok la. Segid Ocean Conference magi di meska omrengal saurel al tutaw. Mal model si tiyal press conference legor gaw. Olngit rabu bergaw mamutikay gergaw. Direct mal model siya sel sorar abdul stay. O siya president ma sel State of Republic address. Agi malol ngitra tokubet si Adam Dios sa klingal tangat takal moringi. Mbol si elmo address kamam na belar sel dur stay. Madagi mereng asulem o si tiyal press conference li gorgal ngang klia Dios sel Adam mangal maebaw ring. Amen.
Amen. President tamay kam leewong
Otro almena asulem Pastor Williams sel lulakat kama nglungu relal tutau. Kita meral kita lukot nunggu le kadamrang asula rubak kal Dios. Ra kal klangal tangat bilsa bilwad. Menari seliol temlangalak kerjin dimla kalme. Dimlar roy demrael. Mlo sabaya del uk otugur tiar klol se kadra bul adam lem gide belau. Egut mok lagi ngar ale del girel. Kutel te ale bokusus rai bedul maraklai marbukul belau. Pilung ebiraklai mar masil belau. President ra Senate Hawkins Paulus marugul senators. Speaker Anastasio marugul delegates. Vice President mar ministers. Chief Justice ngirak kalsong marugul justices. Governors, speakers, lators. Ito kubet sa susurgid al mora rugul other belau. Mga rablur ang ayang al moro hotcharigi mga raikla rablur belau rel al sils. Damral timrenga sulir rogul uknos edel mem kat adadu. Kita kalau nomor kasih lagu telkoram al sungul klol al sungul tial belwadar ablur belau ramal amo kamangal time. Nga agol time Mr. Terlams Mr. Gasole Mr. Klail kita belur belam lo kadam longal tangat lol tagawa adra ogail kakarosel belu المقدم راب الواد ما إيرول دارت ما أقول من الكاكروسل الدبير رابلو الآدم مر أدريل من رابلو ربيلاو كلول من التقال اللي جدر أدر بيلاو الأوك موتيا بالواد أيل بلادرول ما يجيل دولاس من المرول جيرلا أصب أكلين أدبيث ما أدر رابلو ما أكلونيا ولا المرة أدر رابلورا أنا مدادر كبسي من تيال كونفرنس أول أوتي سيل الكالتارين مالوبن ملو تقلد مغلو ريول إيمول بلو أكتولي سيل أنت قطرول سوغل مرينغا سوليرا روغول أدر بيلاو لين ملو بطوغا أيجيل دول نيتر أدر بلو لسي كامي مونغول ليتيان مرليتيان الملتقى ارتيال سكدا ما قلت له أولي قدم له واسي الترافيك رجيدة بدون اسمري رمضان سيل الجيم قدم له رارين شو ورارا أضل المرور سيم ماتريال أوكياق سانغ رجيدة أملو سيدل مسبب آخر تير وكت مقلا يلغر عليه أدري قال مرينا سولير أرنال غرا سكول دولي تتير واسي يجل تبلوك تبسي بولس إل دينغرا سكول الأوكو جام ليديول إلا قال غرا سكول ما ضو سبب آخر سيل تغورا ترافيك أدري قال مرينا سولير بك الأدر بيلاول الجيرل سيل كلامريار رينغر تير مالوبن سيل كلي بيراور جيد أولو تين مرار تيجال أوكياق سانغ رجيد يسي المورار أدرا بلون مرار أدرا وريور متيجل نتمغ الموغاية ممدار تريال أختولي سيلين سيل لونغي ملوريور مرار تيلا دلو كومنتير تريال سيلي دل مرار البام قدم هذا دورتير سيلو لو أي سريدة تواسي مرال مليويل تيال كونفرنس يا تغوني تريال أدرا بلور بيلاو تمرا لو بلتيجر رين مرال سمريار أيجر روغول قرا من سوم المرول تمرا يجل قطر قرباب الموسو سير غمام غاري أملو سورين مرا جيلي فيش لي راو إيه متسبيك رول للتمو غاري أملو سورين مرا بعض الأولام بتأخر تقرتري مرا بعض الأولام اللو تيسل أو كلب غليل بيلاو ما يجل المكلو توتريل بيجيدا أدر بيلاو كذا مرينا سوليرا أدر أوريور يسكتوا سين أدر أوريور انتل إيمول قبل من تملو أوريور ربك المينستري مار ديريكتور تير هذه ملو وديجل كذا مرارا لول تقر تير كذا ملي موغاير تير من تيرغال روغول مينستر مار أدري هذه ملو البان ارتيال أوريور من كذا مرينا سوليرا أدر أوريور ملو سون ساليوير دي تديم لسمايل أو تغان الموغاية ونصير تيال سيغدا ملار بيلاو كذا المال مرينا سوليل سيل سكرتاريات أوفيسر جيد الجيد عمدين راسي بريدج توماس نجي عمله سكرتار أمور أرتيال سكرتاريات ترجيد من تجيل بتقول الجيا ملار سيل أوفيسر لون مسيوري غاري روا كيغو ما أيدو ما كينلي ترجيل لون ورور تيال ورور رابع كالسيلز بترجيل بتقول غار أوفيس أكملين راسي ديم لقال سيل مغتموك لايقال ورور الله كتير نجيل المال مرينا سوليل سيل أكملين غاري هذا ما ستيجا مال ميجي غريلات دي I think سيل ديل سانغ سير ميجي غريلات كندو هذا أسد دولي سي مصر كلايا غاري تبيني ملاني سيل تقرأ توقع ستيجا مال دي ميجي غريلات دي تيجيلا برا كنت مكلي كدري كان مرينا سوليل PCC اللي هي دريغل لول تقار تيال سيجا ده مرغوه أرنغالجيرا أملو تال سانديل لغانا سكولن كذا أقامديت تيال سيجا من تيال لومرايل كمرينا سوليل بريزيدنت تلي ما نغرا PCC ده يجل the sacrifices they made to make this conference a success دريغل مال السؤال لغة تيال مال مرينا سوليل يقال بتوغل بلول لول مسيور جيد تيال كونفرنس توغبت نقول سولا بلو رامريجل تلا قطم لاست المال مسيور جيد دي تنوال لول مسيور جيد الجوت مكليل فينيش لاين تمليل كريترا سيل برودكشن تيم of course هيجل electronics ما هيجل روغول ملارا دوليسر على سيل سي تموال بالإليفيتر تيال كونفرنس البلال الأسد راسين تلو رابلو الأدرا ترى يجل قط قرا أو ميله تتل الكونفرنس لين because سيد المسيسي البارتنرشيب التير كدري كمان أسولي لابلورا تايوان التيرا أجلت مكلي أبلاي ملمول ملون مسيور جيدل البنيت مقر جيدل جيرلتيا كدري كمان أسولي لابلورا شعبان التيرا تيرما ساساقوا بيس فاونديشن أيجل لونول ستريل جيرلتيا الكونفرنس ما يجل بتوغل بلورا بلو الأدل أستراليا نيوزيلاند نوروي إندونيسيا بريتش أمرال ميلو باليست دي جيدا مدينة ستيا دي ملقات سيدل دي جيدل الأولي كدام ليو تويرا ديقل ديل جيدل أدر بلاو ماتريال سأليد مو أتغور تيال الغراء غوت مكليل المورا سيل غوت الكوربا بالسبيد دي سوغل وايسر أدر بلاو لو أسي تريال سأليد الأدر بناما سيرا غراء البابرا فرايدي غمودا دور تيري تيجي مو هوستر تيال نكسر كونفرنس itu asing ayer rogul conference gi blam ngari kami ok blam mut ngu lenga lakla mela kama man momri laurera mele almerra kalau asing ragi mugut muklil lemu tirang alak kertel kibla mesara blur belau se ol hotel sel klibela orgid sel kaltareng orgid mlot mak ngutial alung egut muklil lo hotel mora blur asen sebed sebed le kadam net mak te kadir gid ngar belau marsa di dolong nasi orgid mang sel kaltareng sel الجيدات ما قالوا له ما تمكروا له أو لهم نسوا دلوا تكير تيلا نقرأ تريغن مال تقول مرينا سولة لا مينستر فيكتور جا كمان سمي كلوا تمل لوريور مجا سكرتاريات ما تمكر تيلا لوريور متيجا روغون مينسترز you know كده دي ملاقال سيد الموت تيلا كونفرنس المي أنا قدا remember سيرغوت تول عملة أبراد نقرأ البلل لونغرا رينا بلول بينار تيلا ملومريغ ليرور رخ تقرأ قوبيد تقول بلورا بلولاث السليدر كمية دريد أدريج السيمر دي كده مرينا سولال سل البلاغر رينغرا أدرا مينستريال especially تيجي الفرونت لاينرز التيلو ده make sure كده ملا أورسود يملا غوت بكليد ونص يدرو التقارتيال السجد من دي قد سيغل مو يجل مال البراني أبلغ وبسرتير موسو بس دي أكتيوا سي قدم تيرا قبل من تريد مار أدر بلا روغو يمرين سولي ربك الأف ارتيال كيدا ملاغوت مكلي الجمرة لو سين ترى يجل موت طبعا اللي دخلوا بسرية التريال أدر يجل أوك ملا ومريغل الكونفرنس ما يجل مرايل مي كذا يجل سواد النوتيال التيال مرين سولي لا ميديا البلو الكابير يجل إيفنت أو بنجيت ديريغل سواد النوتيال ديريغل واسي مويلا وريرا ميديا عندي بيبيرا تام أدريغ الجيرد الموتيال روجيل شاسين أقوم مسك هذا من سبندرا هالويك المساعدة بروتسترز ما أبيبيرا تقول ملابس واسين جدا مساعدة كونفرنس من مرة تقول لا مينستر واتيبل سموديا برو بروسبريتي بلان ممال مبلغ تقل مرة أدرى بلو ديريغ جدا سأل الويك Earth Week قدمنا وقت declare National Earth Week proclamation دي رويرا قولان بسا مينستير دي سوق القرى دي مو تيبل متقلا بيبيرا تقوي because I think it's important for us to know سل ملي بلاو بيزنس بلان دي على مينستير ملا مغكلي البلو بروسبريتي بلان ولكم قدم لنا تيلا دنgar تيل كونفرنس اورينج سي سيل قتل تيل تقويا sumak mom sa tani wase tel the beth mayer klunya ngar alsel ayeng magarang kita lokalo dulu tumuser krisi lo ngoral edo sikro le ase magara dong wolori edo mol mal mangat mokri el gira la ar adra blu mal adra kira alsel ay galblu te magara mayer klunya ngar alsel se ala se dro aseng mle mokte kartial conference ma ura kadam sa tani lo ase the beth magara mongol wolor tel the beth magara mongot mokri gira adra blu el maklunya ngar alsel portugal adra blu seguida ala se dro aseng mokte malu vendar tel conference ya gumra lo ase triel betogol panels el tilo mauldas el tilo da mal di focus seguida el togo el mlo mgataqtil wase كده ما لنقل تنات especially قال لي انت المكلو دبث دي بيبيرا تايم era ada mem tos pe egal de beth lukti klungyole de agol klungyole adrablu mugara do lisi ersel wase mugara klungyol arweb ten mora adrablu meng sel do sadra blue prosperity plan engari au dasol tilob do olbira golula lo ase tial togora sanctuarium namo ewidra agire del lo mesri wase aklungyol mran mora adrabelaw ngara kame bodongil lo mesri memlani aul dasol tilo ya talbu iram la memo emloni atelle doloni tradro olbil wase kame bodo meser tial arangale laurior e bodo meser wase kidan ngarai gel se edel elmo gongel waseng klungyolel ngarai gel awngil dongos smok el spisi i tial tal gida amla ruli amla mat mokri na igale widra mang kida mloni atelle الملورا بلورام ريجل يا مينستير ريليس الداسك تجد البلانر جيد المواعيد التريال سألي دلواسي ako truul kamama amdengel wase ngare ngal sela agar ngela abluma waigel lul gaswira adro albil tom das wase ngare gel tretal se drogi ngare agar gel moraqablement من سئل مشورة adar bela wera gi morale ya minister jengin samla mesa ngamo wase ngama minister udo wase yosang angar nga kadela alsils ang songos الموديل سيغل مئيرا أكتوبر 1st را next year نسونغ سريل التايم را ميدل تال مليون كم هيل برانغ المو أندرستاند واسي أخ مغراه إيغوت مكليتيان أخ كيان سولر سيل أوردر يجيدل المو تشنجا يل تكس بوغ الملامو لي الرقا رجيل واسي أخ ستوبرا بريكفاست بروغرام غنق لي أدق لي أوفر سنسي what do I do مجيد سيرا دبرام ريجل يدون دور أرسلي ده كمان ممكن تقتل واسي أو دسورة أدرى هاوس أديو سيغة تأل المو مشورة أدرى بيلا سيا مقتك مقدم لون التنات تتريال سألي دا جينيال واسي سيدا لو مشورة أدرى بيلا أدي على جيد لوبسين نكلو تتريل تول يسي لو مشورة لو جيو تيال دبيض أكلو تتريل سيل غير رجير لو جيو تيال دبيض أكلو تتريل بتجيل نيال واسي أجي مو مسكميو 2.6 مليون رأال مرال ميل دير راق رابك الراق الموسوم كليسي يسال تورا مريجل دوس برياسي من preserve را integrity را sanctuary مقدم المولمل البلاد بقى يلدي سنة مدقة تنغرا إيلين ملامو دقل دي جيدا مدين واسي ملامو جيرا دل الترانزيشن ملامو جيرا دل اللومس واسي تيام مغرا أدريلي بلان الموم سي مغرا نغر أدر بلا مو involve برالسين ما بارت سير بلان واسي نجيرا الموريا ويلوم سو برتيال دبيت which نجلت سيل panel planning ngel tedwaita adillie mla aurelo ngela nine el blue pacific el mrur sel daseng marine spatial planning yaklo askin wase abelan sel mo parte tilang wase wala chum tilang adana sadar after a 9 year el mo mumra gel bebra planet bergid mun kadu kadilo bara bila serse di trial sel dengan amrigel agin ngel wase dia agi meskamya angeso el diregal gut muklise gidro omsu el cloud tutel omsu يا aparte sea maya wal tul blada wa da siga udo dirgirel digi dira sente ka sedel malmol malngar seguide margon digira del dirigal milisi era aurior godas misi aurior rablura abelau material uk adar omnya ngara blur belau ngaria bofi a jackson ngina ngas ngaria abil singen mardo ortia tede ngar belau el altan el mituta aigel urerir omnya len dirigal ngal sangasela al belger drablu يمغرا البروسيس نغانيغ يمغرا لولتوب دني رابلور بلاو بجيد الادر بلا اون نغانيغ لم واخو تكلور على التل لومين جيدا ديري كان مدنيا لواسه over seral other closer sanctuary in merela ايجل بلغتق الفقط يجيد ملك كلوسا ايجل روغول سيرسرا اول لترا قلت ملك كلول غير سيرسرا اول ايجل بروفايد ايجل واو للمراديال تديري كان مدنيا لواسه سيرال كلوز ايجل سيرسرا اول امنا موديغا لورترا اول را locally grown الاول نديريغل ايجل ngari engol ngosong serselo mngia ngara almol egida amdengir wase almol la goto kloa au tutrel egirel protecting نديريغا mea se sel ngosong so mngia ra roid eng mo kloa eng bringal ara ngal ngin ngol ngada basang lol balak ra almol aigea ada silu bulwasel ngal sanga sel tel toy mengira del milisi sel do sing local fishery nadira kan maneno se tel de blade designate ni lo sing luil basen tra mobdul ngabar tra blur belau adimle amle imora blu amle soal ngadulil waisen di kalur tuir omsu ngira del el rule abasho lungira ar adar bela dire kan lungira al sum gad trial selida gira giril malmol ngara el mlotro kwase tam cloud to trial selid edol nga seor tirindi mela ka dobe ser adar bela el al tutau yakmal dir kamlara a sel ceremony gadmre nga sul adar shabal mla maskit sel pon en line vessel el mol nga sera abofi local fishing company makmil nga do urtir ya gulger tilo ase mela al time el ngara air sel ngabar den somil di ngara air ngabar eto asen di kama masoma mel ngara air tel vital mabdula tiang kre east tiang ongos Hindi al time, hindi kasi ngara air sel ang alsimer. Why siya ndang minister? So sel plan na ministera lultur dul otir tigal sa dito kasi kita na mo kita transition on more 100% sustainable management. Oise? Emro ko emone ate ala rai kai gidel local company rid Bofi Jackson ma ardor wasem de helper tir bol sin ngara bolo nge gel wil basyo lang ngara ni mul se el aigal ukpil singir bol se el mega profited provider in mora atrial adel mlamu aigal show bartir egida dongo do trial se lide el helper gidel mura port ma blila processing مسيل بوريان قليل الميل سيدرو دروق مراي كلا بلور بيلا من غير دلو مسك تل انا لا اتوي ما غوم مرال واسه البيبي راتايم قد اوكتيو مسرا بيتان ما الروض اذا قد بدو يلتيل واسنغرا اموكتك مangara plan mga ulit kami na dami sa sel morula report arang litial plan el smoothing legi da gira del mestria arbek la adam مكيدل دولغوي دي algo سبيرتي در example تيال الدورة أمدوري بتال أكمل الوقت الأدادر تيال توي اللي تيجي عمله happen كذا نرا كان friends كذا protest مرة أدرا عمود البلو protest تيجي مرة كذا أدرا بلو أنا مود protest مرة أدرا عمود البلو تيجي أدرا عمود البلو عمله لو أسي أجي ngosu gumiu من up to the last minute emna ina tukan merek ma minister lo ase tirigal ada na umdak tong research tial plan dem na morara ni lo ase ngara ngari ngirik la ngari ra ablu miu ngara korap tok om dibel marum tokara mak awula ko ase mal diwa madu riptal nsi adar ko ase a school ol sangreng ma hospital ol sangreng ma abla bulis ol sangreng ma tolgi tanges mokora bodung anges wel mei ya dosi amro ko tukur tial kal tia dekal amle mokte ka se tia mongir arbe klar hise se amle mokte kar gid me albe bir atta men gira tan motma yo ba imolul da so e kai ngaseu ele gida mokte kar gida mal dio shishu betti garungu dora blur be rogir betti garungu dora adar belau dirga kal mod ako sergi dara domura urere der merang ako tagira adar belau that's always been at the forefront mori atokol wase triam na maudo triam na I'm sorry di moludo da darur tri do siglo wase magare maudo do mor omsangal gut mok la yel ul spilar adar bela rabek pel sita school hospital mabla bulis de ya si amne sois baudo dream state rabi for al mohel payge dulur mung kada maral ngal tangat kada betokara wil selid sel tarablo domru ringi haladik pakatakli akar se kada masadara atialo mga drabdur bela se era al time gida gida stopper tiangeleng gida amal klobo gole en wil bulu ukmal lo to ubet se ayer bebi rabla amal kitel bulu so di dengar wa FSM marwa masyan le tegi ala wa perseiner en mesois bradbir di hale wa isa kamiu gida el al sils au ule ngari au do el do suguri because of the PNA agreement sell parties to narrow agreement. I get fishing days and not traw mar sell karager dolari I get dia langara era I get blue. Mukata mal murur atangar bela do sadwa kantila ye egid atangar bital do laudo da kotter murur trigal seli dra ngodo blue tira part tier parties to narrow agreement til gir gir. Mundi kata atangar era blua de kata menen wa sengal gir murt. Betonga gir do ase pere mortra yel days kamira naru ya dia langara airse mung gida dia kal gira toram regela sen dia kal gira hypocrites komona tokol hypocrites sadoy misel do sadra tokoy الوا غدو mal مغدون mal ligang alu be kita tato telor tiala mengira der mot mage mal blaktak la dogol mara darablu ena kado asen dia kal soma el sil se along line armur tra ngawal el adra ngodol bula armur tri dingar se mora ekter ablu dia kal gira der abluat etia yedra ngari aplan administrasi magra dol gira der tiara alduk magra ngar adar belat mur al set tialu so betoka arod digu maral wasa partrangar elu as media tell the whole story ila sel lag mo tabdia whole story emorar der adra ablu kada patrangi kan obal meraga kami ama so mi loli isri mo da chat mutial kan ma se Kita mo kay nga selo sa kita nga imol bila sel imo mokte karigid. Di betigar mo dara blur bela sa Maria lo sera other belaw. El sea mokte kamang madayero sa bebira time kada mo kakabos di umdo sa mokte ka osisyu. Hala dik share last story. Ako la tama kaleng ne sa na lom tira rubugol bela mo kasi papa maram ka sa na sel babir. El more trigal sa lidel nga igal ngod al bulul me. Engwa se hindi ka soda persen al merbelaw kita mga ratial ludo dol nga persen nga wamas melak dol sa babir more tira ka mal burur. Di but that's part of the miscommunication and I hope and gida through the media e kada help educator at wasing maldi imo moktek. Tigarang udura blur belaw ngari klokte del bilskida alit may the help and make sure got and benefit the other belaw. And that's always been the goal from the beginning. Minister sulang ramring lurere na waklol tema mendi we have a lot to celebrate. And I think most importantly to celebrate rose batokar sa alit el samria lo ngo seorgid e batigaran dira the bela blur belo se last panel lecture niya ngari artedel mal maral adra blur adra sel panel lo mugi kang machan carry kadangal tangat titigay del maral sa alit del adra blur asamria lo ngo ser belaw lo ngo ser gida way gida del plan including el trial el baby sa alit ngara outside mong I know was we will make sure our oceans are protected, our people are taken care of, and we will be prosperous. So, komsulang, the plan was build back better, and that's the plan. And I think sale opportunity our oceans and sharing with the world that our challenges are and how we can do it better. Ngari ato ko raw Miguel like was tial plan na minister. Alsung mo sa other tial PNMS tiam na mo 7 years so I say I got iPhone every top da best version muna mo to ka change tial PNMS kadam na mo say tiam ligiran nga rais te kadam mo mga west every year kada review upgrade the plan mela kaduk nga 7 years muna mo PNMS version 7.0 mura 8.0 continue improving it because that's what we should do as a nation kadam sa igal nga said tingin la madang abu ko dablo say preserve the best improve the rest and I think seguida arus triya minister oman sulang minister skate alam ko maulal
sulang presidente manuel total mara media mar bekal adar belaw edi clutel modo ela igel dilu presidente el girela our ocean conference tirigel هذا الملين وكنوريات اللغة الموضوع ذو تيرا مال يمر طوال دليل قوسين بيسايدرا 16 بليون البلا الغامترينيا بلو الأذ تايا إيمول غانفرنس الانترناشنال كونفرنس البلا البورني well organized تيار أذاق مال ريلاكس بكل بلول سردورا كونفرنس تيار أذا مال tense because of high security risk تمال ملي feel at home إذا موتر ما emphasizes سيد الله president واسيا ترجل بكل هذا الملي انبور برتيال كونفرنس عملوا الاوتيس الهوسبيتالي ترجل در هذا بلاو بكل هذا مال ملي ويلين الهلب تدي سمايل سي ايمول قرن سرنجر بكل participants so beside there $16 billion and say جد لونيل الإيمت سرجل در هذا بلال سواد الاوتي سي عليل سان ديريغل تيال كونفرنس الدواسين ترجل غوت الملي diverse and inclusive conference. Mlaria participation are youth, Mlaria participation are indigenous people from across the globe. Pekal conference the boring tabul all the LLs al other mga Etia conference play the Mr. Ardil masal el dirigal wagalorgith قم ديريغ الملصقان من ستيت قم ملصق انسينغول من الموضوع ذو لهم ترى أرذيل سي أوانرا أولمر أذرا بنما قوسي قد ملاوال بار المال مرباب لأن أتمو سي أجيرير المو أتشيفرينير قوسي أريوت مغرام بارترا تلو موضوع ذو مار moral diverse participation را أر أذر تل بلو الأذ after all ديال سبيل إيمول بلو يغط مقليت يال challenge الجيدا face رنجيرا ocean الجيدا alturingi so ngariya الجيدا الداسين ملي 16.3 billion more than commitments الدريرو لرتيال بيلاو so this is the second highest commitment of all the ocean conference سل ملغوت الغربة نرويج ملي 63 point some billion dollars يا بيلاو 16.3 billion dollars سل next ملي إندونيسيا 10 billion dollars يا جل الريسترا conference هذه ملي less than 10 billion dollars so مرال مقلو دو ده سل دورين غريق واسيا access المورا يجاجي the resources my implementation رجعي the commitment underground أمرال the realizing sooner rather than many years later. Let's say more mega changes in the health of the oceans. أيجل أبلا أملانيا تقلل دريغ اللودارس commitment رجعي دريغ الملو support commitment الأذمة بيبير رابلو أو لنجت ربلاو المو support. مثل غوتا أخدم له support ترسل Island Ocean Connection Challenge. Se moktegaringia adresa tora invasive species ma restoration ragel habitat mlam tamal because of invasive species. Pelau ma Panama mlego ayam mlego tabelu sign onto the commitment lobongela island conservation ma Scripps Institutional Oceanography ma Rewild. Siya commitment to raise $130 million by Panama Ocean Conference. Sira the sign na commitment kadam la raise ang $50 million. Iya kuk mo nga level mo overall Lobongela Island Conservation during the conference ya gim le sign na MOU Lobongela Island Conservation. Ngari nga already lang bela eradicate tabeap kum mlarmeng sa rat eradication rang ayang ma ngarka klara ngar along mga niya mora aulong gidire lo re lo bantrir lo meselo sing ngania supporter sub ilmo maskida ko togora control manage eradicate a fruit fly ablur belaw gidire lo gamit el morsel ocean risk and resilience action alliance gidam le got el full seats member. The direct support cell declaration and zero emission shipping by 2050. Aigel kuk commitment el belawa dilur qasegagi da gibo focus ra aguk tebela blur belaw qadam le gamit el mora 100% sustainable management ra atabeth guided by a 3-year science-based marine spatial plan. Tegel do modorir masing Blue Prosperity Plan. The direct commit to generating 100% of our renewable energy sources by 2032 without increasing cost to consumers. Emphasize yourself kasing adoru ringi ada alswada bol maring la ala dengil marar okyara. The direct commit by 2030 Palau will significantly increase climate resilience and food security through tripling the production and consumption of locally produced healthy foods from land and sea. Foods that are produced in a nature positive, culture positive, and socially equitable manner. Kada direct mlegamit lo ase kada mo engage lobang tri regal sa lidera Valura Pacific Island to significantly make progress on achieving 30 by 30 commitment by 2025. Kada direct mlekwase kada mo commit to achieving 100% sustainable management of our ocean by 2025. Include el modo el aigel dilu presidente el gire la Blue Prosperity Plan ma tial el gora da logo ngangira blur belal gire la quasi tel 80% abodo re eringi kada tomeli sel integrity ra ulma kada mlomro ringi. Kadakmal rong si sel concern ra tirigel ko kwaset tiadal gire del mare eringi. Di tegi da plan el gib la moto bedil kwasi abodo re eringi ngani ngil tele le kada mare eringi. Le kada mlamo mes aigel ngal sangsel. Abay sel dolingi triak mo se kada magara mot magalo urior el beklad. Makada sabi edel achiever sel niyam le moktegal kwasi tial resource el gidar adel vela manet seringi. Therefore, klol benefit tagire del ngur tial resource. Ngariya raureng kwasi tiadareli kada di kul motit ra maklol gombali. Ya ulma ngari tial 3 years transition plan. Sea dos perir kwasi kada magara melisi gombali belau. Malsel ederrak edo aseng mla increase fishing ground el mosab el financially viable ator omgid engani gombali gida adbela el sab el participate ulma dimla gado ase gado lungit olvira galulal kwase mela gadi do asmerel 100% le dido asmerel 100% el al time en bofimotita ulma agimlo lungitra atrigel conservation investors lo hace mem pas kamam seguido el $2.6 million el ngia revenue loss ra seguido lo hace namo que gre omnged molol mol mel daga omnged el sel 80% ya omnged dil ngani la 20% egel moringa 80% tamo experiment el gida oriol lo bongel legal gom bali ra revelau el kwase gada magara experiment el mlisi egel gom bali. First and foremost, akwase kada magara maintain el integrity del PNMS. El ngia kwase kada miru ringi el protect rar other below. Umdas wendim laga akmal kwase kada miru ra PNMS la kada protect ratuna. Kada miru ringi la kada protect rar other below. Masay moktegara plan el gamama guk mla gut makli. Yo moral kwase adangara al sel ederra que do subringi al tal sel ederra que kwasen diak medlu tul mortiay gidia alu kwase al sel ederra gadu kwasen mlamo girel moangrang ngaringi segi del sebe krenga kwase 80% kadamla ama do swed del distagara 80% di sel mle moktek moset tia doruringi magarar adre belamongil ese ya mol moktegal el Blue Prosperity Plan o así. Hay que algo que bla muestra el sabe el gutmok yar adre bela mongil ay gakid. Maduk melasem le derrak ala al sabel. Egaduk mara taral daso. Madolni tamil understanding ara arbeklad matrigel el gora ngaria sebe kren artil girela como se tiadre el lie yar adre bela motit. Tiadoru to protect yar adre mother bela first and foremost. Sulang.
Kibay bridge. Habay ko atel gora di msa bridge. Thomas ngi amle secretariat ora secretariat rigid. Girel tial our ocean conference. Ngi mati mria otro ngi demre ngasulir. Ramri lurere mlamok medal tarra al tira de old ala cartel to get us to where we were today and last week. Mang demre ngasulele mo subesa bridge mo ya miscommunication ma kamlo rang ron mo mo sigirgid ndi ka tiam lami mang akmlo mre ngasuler adan di akmera singari tiagel details so I want you to pasa paskate lem mang bomo rang asaur tigel individuals mar adal tiram le parte tial tim rigid gut muklitel urior gumra lo asen cloud to tell arbek other belam na participate ndi ngari tri rukmal netugubet sa on sutrir so I want to give you the chance to look recognize tire o aisirgida about the conference. Sulang.
Man besula al presidente malungil total mararokil av. Hindi kalbato kaltokak pagulkoy. Akmal di ngartiang so alung tel te alle emre nga suri trigger rokul avel tiram lemring la ready behind the scenes sel git makliam leungil conference sel belur belaw amle hosteringi. Presidente niya po mas ang kliro ko ile kada mo loknyam that time makti mo mas aigel kuraway yablel kamiti siltiram lara alsel ang kadawasing laring again multifaceted needs sertial conference siltira dila kalorio rogo mga tmokla mamlaring isel kamiti ra program kagina Minister Victor Ngartiang ngi madaktor kolbo ako kor ulurio loge ra to ra program ngaring isel kamiti ra events and hospitality al kagida Minister matu al mar adra PBN Ngartiang direct kalmal neklo already del girel mang ang malyong ilabas si illegal venues sergi de mal neklo kalam atara klo deklo talenting ital conference president at protocol makadami nga suwela minister ay taro malyong ila service at protocol al mar okya kargi damang in fact tamal patokar adal maldi malyang asawla malyong ila service at drivers per liaison officers sertir kadamal malyang asuli ra rokul drivers mar liaison officers metriga rokul adal tira amle support at protocol ang direct kalso da mirang asuli ar other health ma security committee siltiram le keep us safe from threats ma direct kal COVID-19 kada direct kal mirang asuli ar other facilities Minister Obiang ma ar other PNCC al tira ulurio al mga tmok legal venues sirgi they make sure luwaseng nga rin ungil connectivity legal venues and lastly naring itirgal adal mga sir tokora youth makadaman swad mering asulira rokul adal tiram na ay gidal ka cross al committee sem ne mering loriol gidal tel conference presidenta ka tirakal hotel te ale eswa al mo recognize ra tigel part tel secretariat tel secretariat Amil adrodre logiwa executive order for 55 el tilob dra chulara last year ever since seguid el tamel mer el ang nga te del adal tiragi dra gimda kalurior malso al mo recognize tira man nemring el lurerir el make sure again rogo el gat magil el tel conference milgat mokla mga ringa gi guberel nga gi dem le coordinate tegel ko kwarto ra events ma hospitality ma protocol direct kal ngaring edumal otob the alngi am coordinate kel tokora security ma health ma facilities ma telecommunications direct kal ngaring Kenley Kenneth alngi am coordinate kel activities for our youth and last but not least the president ngaring imora adal le on board the secretariat around the October last year nga other MPII ang klela amor miya haruwo ngay giden gel mle ongora alagay rokul to kora procurement may gel kora involve finance mle make sure ang kaltmok la alu ulam lay mle make sure rokul adang nga kalir ma ay rokul mle gide del goods and services mle gide del procure ngay gidyam mle make sure waseng kaltmok la makadaman men nga sule le men nga sule la minister obi ang mlo sabi el ko release ngi mang beol nga sera secretariat President taktira kal malso kal nga sulem kaw mak tel cabinet kaw marokul members ra steering committee ra ocean kama ma kora dine migi kalel ad mang bato ka gelo kam lengal sangasam whether ang kora to kora shungar bela wang baby ra to ko inding merang suli gire la kalori ngar kami we kada dila kalori re kut makliter conference migi tial mla mo mere karingi tial conference presidenta dimla kadil ako maral wasit tiang pelur bela ro kuy le hostel ng hindi kadil kabalment at the end of the day ang gira de mirang sulira other bela wal gira lang in hospitality tira ul hotel mora tigal okya kadil le attendra our ocean conference hindi gigi de presidente kumal masulang
bridge kada sadara umrengal saula tara umral masingit mga sulit tigal governors especially across state our rangers and help para security of course helping us with the silsila mura alba maral mle aldel bela lol ngasew mang damral di mga sulit bekla other bela and I'm sure bebra time kada msada klem mol mol obes ra ding tiamran le rangal la blur bela mo kada maral di mga sulit bekla other girele and thank you I see Tiragal bridge I don't know if you have the list Artrial uktim le donate Indiri kalungil al sumangani atel ko ba list trigel sa leader other on the blue mar other belau. Indiri kal contribute tel mora and I think there'll be a time kad mo broadcast ay la ora al chamel share lang alo baka
Hindi ang vice president kada ko radil ka mga other cell al after action report tergid misel already segi degi da mo ay some more details tergid rogul adam na donate ka lama ilum lama ay gel details gel commitments al gel bel report ta a Minister Victor.
diga kung tialta le ura nga sulira ara adara abulu el tiram le mestre adar mi lauror matamo mestre mi ral memo that's mi gare but segi der ring ar bekla adal el filo se te adol taqarin sega kadat magro ul gainga sew mang al sel belaw micrel belaw not mage gainga sew sulang ya bridge. Of course, yes. Na lang tayo derma. Kumisa kung ngalak rough ka mal sam lo gira.
Malungil tuta president, mal ministers, malungil tuta malme direkal malme ungil tel programa akti so kal direkal note bridge ase ngaya bebe liaison sul gumiserte tamal go out of their way far and above the call of duty el accommodate ke rokul sorry direkal adma ay selulor nga Victoria minister. That's true. That's a very Palawan hospitality makadamal brother ni.
I think share lo say tamram lengul ambassador belaw. El liaison lo trigalab magdo mura se la sel trigalat servitur ma blure trigadi murgal ambassador belal lo isra belal mura blur tamram lenga suli gel say that was really outstanding.
Yes, I was very proud to see that. President, ako mas questions the activator kau kira legal plan ang gukti. So kal dis share so kal ask a questions to clarify. Maybe that is I can do el maral el kira la torta kira el sustainable 100% sustainable management ma blue prosperity ma directly el ko bebra questions el mo related mortal current PNMS policy da el do sa dangi mang kamne mention el number of times la say kada tal dorurengil el sustainable 100% manage ocean mo help rather bela ma question ako to question ase tal PNMS rekider elang diakal ngari ngot al manager ngi malo ngot al benefit ngi diakal other bela ya follow up on that ngani at legal message el blue prosperity plan mal simple mal clear out mal outline ay role objectives sa mga plans al mula sa mo implement a question ako misalngi bato regal discussion so for example a sustainable fisheries plan ma innovative fishery management mang ako kelbladareng sa PNMS matel like presentation sa committee tiga all along that the year like past 2 years masada kita lo sisiul wal lo sa o sisito ko amelisi ay local domestic fisheries el mo sa irel become more sustainable reach ay objectives el ngam le ngar al siltegi del plan mang I guess a question will get say President ma Minister say tial managed 100% management managed ocean multi difference ringil mention kung ringil sel mo sa ringil correct me if I'm wrong am sa other say dal to era fishery el basically say el allow additional fishing companies mesois para fishing mesois para the every size maluwe kung pacer sa mo sa tingil special planning kung resize ringil mo allow mo managing in different ways. Basically, the difference that I see. A question I say, I concerns el vice morgoning president lo say throughout the conference and other protests lo say que we want to maintain the 80% no take zone. El concerns el osada hace del 80% a feeder a 20%. It serves as a sanctuary, a breeding ground for the fish, and it flows to the 20%. There are other below benefit from that. How much different is that than the plan you guys already putting together, other than the resizing?
Sulang leng senangat telgiven mo kamangta. Lenang sabi edel do justice el dis modil dige kadebe ese yaklo el rawreng raat. Obom lanya te level mo uivis el legislative finding ra sera logot el mamrur tial lara 2015. Ito asya ang igla decline igal dial omngeda contribute taklo gomi. At as meritiang environmental NGO sa mo lo awdo merbelaw. May gumu ursel kwa sengi gala decline. Stock assessment tra WCPF til over 2021. Akwa say yellowfin, big eye, skipjack, tuna stock. Ursel WCPFC region elgida partneringi green. Waseng not being overfished. There are overfishing happening within the WCPFC region. Number 2, sel kwase igal dalar omngeda contribute klol gomil mera tel the belbelaw. And al timing the 22 sera before 2020 emlo up to 65 el dial omngeda belaw el ang di 18 el dial rasyabal ma imol dilela bofi. A plastic adriga clora el mera shorter belaw. Number 3. Sel mlek kwase the Smyritiang environmental NGOs al awdov may provide figure lo asya. Sera lomo la PNMS Actra 2015 sera pasal mo la emlania selda seng winding down period. Dimle el sela first year etamle reduce a number of vessel days el sub edel deploy marar other omnged by 20%. So 20% reduction in revenue sell time. 2016 another 10% reduction. Total 30%. By 2017 another 10% mong total 40%. So from the long line fleet, ikadamle reduce our revenue by 40% raigel days el gid otraw. Sera 2020 melmutre el 3 years seldo aseng bigos endigia igel locally based long line fishing vessel el dotra days el tirmra a etame export tangi gelangani iskel local expense el do aseng up to $2.6 million. So el sela 2015 el mera el al time I estimate about $9 million loss in potential revenue mera government traveler below. Figure el sabiqan mo provider ngit from Center for Ocean Solution el part el semle kabegal task force el president milktab years el October el members niya pala International Coral Center, Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Environment, Conservation International, Blue Nature Alliance, the Nature Conservancy, akwasing since 2017 el mera el 2022 there's only $3.8 million in grants mlasois vel mora a Pickwick. Al tangania mora other organization el diagi modingi. but that's the figure. So take $3.8 million, comparing in mara $9 million. There's about $5 million in lost revenue. Also, makada masadara div dovda. Sera langaringi omengeth. PITI anuling ngordia ngara 64 metric tons tuna mora local market traveler below. Our other below annually gadogolia 53 metric tons offshore fish. El all time above fee adisabel logordi at 22 metric tons mera local market. So kada dio mes agel number and then we know kwaseng mlamong song sangigel within a local market. Also mar tourist tami cell consumption increased to over 100 metric tons. So kada mesra short term impact, but more importantly cell long term impact tertial dangara al cell. Ya la kadore eringi cell long term impact mo o degal sab edel sum clima lumomring la dos mokringi ro. Ngania stadil mirror 2017 by Forum Fisheries Agency, Bureau of Marine Resource amle commissioner kwase sel time ya a fishing round sel 20% adrigamle ngara southeaster below. Sel assessment adilur kwaseng there's no financial viability of any long line fleet operating within 20%. Sel kill ngarsia kwase financial viability ringi. If you recall momesra changes in the law by 2019 ekadamle change la al mubra a 20% al more west side for some other reason. Emlo alara other omngedel waseng so min more rahaisis yang ara MLN below to make it financially viable. Di what happens over a era haisis ngaroida cost will increase. Marsum kada masadaringil ngara conservation ratuna stadil blood publish ringia Alex Filios ma Palau International Aquarium Center 2021 akwase cell home range ng Galtuna is about 2,000 kilometer. Agel tunal bel tagar belau abol betigel ngara kaping marangir abol abay amam betigel ngara Indonesia amam betigel ngara Philippines. So maral ngalakra adobel belau maral to asya tel 80% asmarin dia amliya ka gineng mangigel dil ngara alsel waisay dia ka gineng mangigel atov del ikrel adobel belau sel kwaseng spill over al mara 20%. Ngungin labo the understand ra science. A science ra karamlal, ma science ra tunak mal kakarosa. Reef fish are bottom dwelling species associated with tial bottom. Ovo mo dangalia home range ra karamlal waseng ngara 5 miles. Abi la sab el protect ra karamlal leng ngara 6 kilometer sel klungel abila. Dinda so el protectra kamadukla leng tovda. Aul mo spera a closure kamadukla emla mo to kamaduk. Not because en close abila. Mong diraga ka stadil la tovda anywhere in the world al kwaseng ngania spill over ra migratory fish. Ma yegida science el gire del mo omese أقول ما قاسي عملي intent ترتيال PNMS wasn't so much قاسي هذا protect رتونا but more so قاسي هذا مغرب سيل benefit تامير other below so سيلجي مومس نيا قاسي al till 20% كلونين لا fishing ground there's no way ang sabela imol gombalil survive there's no way unless a government subsidize. But a subsidy ka mong urgir. Kadam lalo sa 2.6 million dollar revenue sa beedel generate ringi that we could reinvest and subsidize ra milisi akong balir belo. So kada di pebira time kada meser sel economics ra togo ra omangeth edi mo ba conservation ak waseng sa beel. At protect rangi lang sa beedel nga rai. But mal kakaraw sa pangara era reef madangara era offshore. Sel cost say agot clol component that will make or break ra dolas on maruri. Masel doru ringir kaseng girel tay aquaculture matokor omnged. Egida sa beedel التلقيب الواقوسترا ngal ngigil dalenda ngi na valur belaw edil gal girel ngani ngigil the export ngi nga sab edel kipra ngigil affordable el mergid من sab edel mari من تلقيب الغمang la sodel nding important el bodo ngi gigil el information la say yes kada maral understand ra kwaseng giredel conserve di sumu kwasega da conserve ra tuna and the closure aruli. Al sumral da kalswada ngani omenge der belo totally the closer omenge. That's the only way. Le atmosphere ada seng area based lo assemble ball protect ratuna it doesn't work. That's the science that's available. Al tangani al leading malge gare versus ra asel costring. Hopefully sabi edel mutal المؤذي قد provide a true picture mo sabi ira adal understand la sing kida dia also tida 80% close at the bed malungil lang it's a symbolic gesture marabulad dingra sel impact ngil guf mergi dar adal belal الملاسم el develop domestic fishing lo long ser adal belaw el contribute al mora food security gida adal belaw
Narada bofir el tutau a request to say so lang ra era east. This is enough. That's an example or why we need to look at the policy, revise, upgrade. Rulin mo atter how do we develop that local fishery?
So just hindi tul di kata follow up kamle mention ay wase revenue amle drop domestic before after PNMS there ngani ako information there kalbla loto say actually ay revenue amle nilas all the way malmutra even malmutra sa 2021 kata amle earn 7 million ay I guess ngigal fishing
maral togol waseng ngilas revenue not because sa kadam le close ra 80%. Because sa 2014 ya PNA am le double ra value ra percent vessel day. It's nothing to do with what we did in Palau. As a PNA region, etamlo sera 2012 sera sign ra 2010 sera sign ra tagi del PNA agreement ra sa kadamo otmage implement ra vessel day. Mlestat el ngario mol ngara 2013 4,000 2014 as a region at kilingen longos ilmo 8 minimum 8,000. Has nothing to do with the closure. Has everything to do with PNA as a management block within WCPFC. So by 2021 kadidiri goltrara dergid ngara $8,900. This year egilungos a clear value ra dergid mo $9,500. Mle implement the other management fee ra tele. So there is still room for generating more revenue. Nela selgim mga other siabal wasem siabala ara day sringil nga era al sila velam ladrap ling kekre fishing ground. So ngayel lolo president. And all time 100% ra a vessel del dotrur ang ara era outsider belaw. Masel dolgo kwasya a percent na maknit oy maknit al nga dwen di ngil al nga dwen FSM as long as that generate a revenue. Say a hypocrisy el dos adri o hindi kalso mga era de berbelaw hindi bora era haisis ngarang ul hindi kalso da mga era haisis hindi ka controller tir emelendra blue belaw they give us a 10 cents per kilo es el cost of collecting the data cost of managing the fishery akmal ngarba so mong modiakal attera soad Michael the put in lol kwase moru like mutelgi moru ringia malas morulil kwasing mo maintain our cell integrity and we're managing the fishery in a sustainable way. Etya hopefully new sustainable fisheries of other exploring era throughout Micronesia and the Pacific.
Well, one last question mo that manipulate ramay.
Halak quick Diral Gora help clarify something. If you look at the data, Gidam Low Rich are over 10 million a year. We collect from fishing revenue. Ilang nadarap mo 7 million. Let's remember, since the PNMS, none of that revenue that we're talking about is due to the PNMS. Those are fishing days and fishing revenue due to fishing activity in Palau and outside of Palau. I say, has nothing to do with PNMS. This is what PNMS did. Reduce our revenue by 2.6 million. Say a fact. So that's why the Blue Prosperity Plan, I say, we get the conservation partners, help us get the loss, and then build a plan that can be durable, protect the integrity of the sanctuary, because ultimately integrity of the sanctuary so that protect the that's why it's about regenerating, rebuilding, and continue los perang. That's why ngariabon.
Yes.
So saya amok I think ngariagel kun mesel chartel maral painting the wrong picture. So it's important sell sumagada doltabda data emsada toy a fact and where the money came from and what it's for. So for the last 7 years, zero from sanctuary mitigate the long at the partners that help pergi and replace or sell loss and mer omsang. Okay, so so for the first time in 7 years, finally we have some money replacing what we've lost.
Okay, Amal, the last one connected to that, nakaka-make manipulated tal mega sel kuk understanding al marala say sige the loss bol experience niya belaw lang mo dia kafia umengedra at belaw 80% at belaw alakalbi de and I was going back to the kuk news reports years back in sel PPEF field blo the blo implementer niya wal blo gidel generator a replacement to seluto. Of course ang COVID makadamla loser ni ang sel el alba alutol nga recovery ra tourism madalutol mo malara ar tourist tial le financial scheme ra PNMS el collect revenue from tourists rather than from fishing sing el replace al ube it's going to be an additional revenue in the republic to open the assignment more fishing companies.
So let's be very clear. Tourist and marablur belau in their mind right now believes was celebra alba betia part of PNMS even together na conference celebra gal almol lomba protection and part of PNMS. You understand what they're giving money to la protect together la sadra awal tamasaver tial blue maigal meleokori. That's really where that's why they're giving money because of what they come and see. So yes, kadangal tangat el wakor state no mesa valura ablurir matingilo chile fish lake and additional $50 collect $100 a tourist. We need to know lo sengara valura abluat e askara other melding abluat was contribute mora a protection ma del tial blue. So selbo da mix aigal tolo se me dan aigal de ludo do tourist replace aigal tia girel mergid anyway. So it doesn't mean kasi kam na magaludo tourist so ka discount sel opportunity ra other belaw al mga regera asel ukirel blingri ra to ratuna. I think that's where the misconception is. Same dirigal blingale dal gira dal mga regeri. So back in the very beginning, President Ramasam na ogera seta makadra finance ra house. Mulgera ngalo ase how much money do we need to replace our lost revenue ra a republic? Actually ase at the minimum kada spera 10 million ra bekkarra. And if you look at the revenue, it's about 10 million. Why say? How do we get 10 million a year? Ako kasi, bumawado tigay del sa lead, balbaskida 200 million, at the creator endowment fund, and every year, lakatang ara, kalakta siya lo. Sell time na meron zero, albaskid. Tigay sa lead, gira la, at tukora, o mga riyom. Hindi, sorry, masawadri, arwa piu matil butok, hindi, sell dungura, at tel to India. Finally, this year, atam lang ko say, no, we need to come up with a better plan. Ile, our reason arwa, aygal baby rablu, arwa giriba, samla ngutiat plan nul oitirik, lasem dagi mongoriam, is exactly that. Tam lang besel wa say, when we do these things, and dal gira lo besel adlu tuida aygal karreger, matmok ladrang clear, matmok hospitality, matmok school. So if you listen to our other giribas, esaya alo saudri. So all around the world, the biggest challenge is magaradoro like the large protected areas, resilient, durable, SML continual low. So really, what our partners have come together and said, that's why we need to have a plan. We should have the plan 7 years ago. No plan. Kadi uspe tinggal imor rubak. Kadi memang klabo ko la ipengya ng ayen bringan aral idip. Louis Vuitton, hindi sir kisi alsel baaw. That's what we need to fix. So that's what we're fixing. Now we have to figure out how we make sure school dangan yaw do take care hospitality dangan yaw do take care our retirees dangan yaw do kaper tilang kadam na kasi kote ngosong sa SS ngosong sa pension ngosong those are all the realities that we live in. So anyway,
America the president adire galungil bodo la history tel $100. Le tel $100 adi mla di magically appear because of PNMS. $100 year 2000 mla study milgat mok roger ar tourist mo say how much are you willing to pay extra maybe visit revelo. Sen number amle up to $100. If you recall, let's say sustainable financing mechanism, el protected areas network. By 2003, the pasara pan act. By 2006, the milas muru retaged the financing mechanism. Serang $100 talato se til amal club turista modalmi. Down to $50 to send the andriga club. Down to $30 to send the andriga club. So it went down, sir got implementing $15. A year later, tamle realized la sing dirig klo tourist in Malmem gudulngos il mo $30. And you have 15 of that $30 will take care of water and sewer. So by 2015, Palau was charging $50 and more visitors and more velo. So sell extra $50. We could have a political will at that time charging my tourist without NMS, and we still would have gotten it. Example, actually, if it's like a loss issue. So, whether we have 80% close or not, that's what they're willing to pay to see a well-managed protected areas and managed reef system available. Now, they kwaseng sell 2.6 million na dia to talel. I think a pension plan, social security. In 10 years, that's $20 million as well cover the program. So, as a nation, and we need to maximize every opportunity or revenue helpful. Obligation available. So sell world das la sa lutal met touristen sa bedel for sell 2.6 million. Ako das when dia as a nation los pe audo de gumarak waseng ngungil adoru ringil wase al sumeng sebe el ngu erula tor omeng el mungil lungil ar adr belau ngaram de adreli.
So, very simply put, you have to balance protection and production. Why say? Malsumang ngari ate let ngari agar ngariat e continual mangalwal tial benef tial the bedamang say continual harvest continual ngaring gal ngalet ngaram de adarelli. Nte alla el mergi dar adar belau de galgia del merem marael. Gira del el make sure aklungya la mara adar belau. Ngalgi al dera constitution yeda was highly migratory. Masum highly migratory kam erem mara haisis matungu de kakargel merbelau. And are you being responsible as other tial blue mar other tial blue and make sure a benefit some benefit other belau. Ngira del balance ay gal make sure was a klungya ultimately and more benefit other belau. Lagada fix that's what a number. Let's do it the right size because that's what science says. That's what experience says. That's what we say lo say. Ang igel kada manager ni maral moklo magara tetele. Ay kita gira del luto ini. Kumbra lo say at the end other bela adio wana durustri sel gotel mongil gira adra blum say durustri. Chula I guess.
Good morning. So, Minister and Mr. President, when you say it's a blue prosperity plan, so it's a business plan. Every business plan also has a projection of how much value it will give, it will create. And also, when you clarify the marine special planning, so you plan how and where to use the marine spaces, right? So there's some fishing, there's some conservation area. Are you planning any other activities in that in the marine spaces other than fishing? And also, Mr. President and Minister, that's a vast ocean. So if you're planning to put some fishing in the conservation area, do you have the tools? Do you have the allies internationally and locally and the funding to protect the ocean? Who manages the ocean? When you talk about 100% ocean management, who will protect it?
So Palau will protect it. We're doing it now. We're protecting and we're doing surveillance within 100% of Palau's ocean. When we're talking about 100%, it's about how do we generate revenue to reinvest in that protection. So, and I think your question around is the plan only about fishing? The answer is yes. Palau has a existing law that bans deep sea mining, bans bottom trawling. Palau is 100% shark sanctuary. Palau bans fishing and floating fish aggregating device. Those are laws that this plan will not touch. This is only talking about how do we make fishing sustainable. Yes, there will be areas that will need to be protected, and we need to determine why those areas and what are we protecting in those areas. So right now, I don't know. So that's what we hope science will help us. The forum fisheries agencies have committed to help support Palau Blue Prosperity Plan. Secretariat of Pacific Community, which is the scientific body within the region, has committed to helping us. World Bank has also committed to help us with marine spatial planning. Nippon Foundation has committed to be supporting Palau and Blue Prosperity Plan. So we've built partnership to help us implement the plan. And we believe that further analysis of how much revenue will be generated based on the activities that will be put in place, will be determined through this process.
And I think we also should give credit to the first part of the plan that was also being funded by the Nature Conservancy, Conservation International, Blue Nature Alliance, Neotero, and Chris Larson as an individual donor. So those are all our partners to see this to become a reality. So we've tried to get everybody in the same canoe and paddling in the same direction.
Just to clarify and follow up, activities, all exploration is also not part of those activity because under the PNMS, no extraction, no mining. So it's all exploration part of that because President has in past earlier press conference has not, it's sort of keen in exploring that activity. And also, Mr. President, who is Chris Larson? I think you have mentioned in one of your speeches about Ripple Labs. Are they going to be also part of the funding partners?
Yeah, so Chris Larson, before we went to see him in at the end of March, he had already committed to $1 million to Give Power. Give Power is an NGO that does renewable energy to Palau. So he has a plan that he will make Angaur 100% renewable because that's costing PUC a lot of money. So if you can make that 100% renewable, it reduces PUC's cost, which helps all of Palau reduce its power cost. And also looking at the capital. So those are the two that he had already committed funding to. We went to see him in March and asked him, Minister and I, that we have this Blue Prosperity Plan, and would he, this is our challenge, and his response was, can $1 million help? So Ripple, as you know, is the company that we signed an MOU with to study setting up a Palau stable coin, and we're using their ledger. So you can also say that because of that opportunity, he knows about Palau and he wants to help Palau. So already he's committed $2 million to helping Palau, besides maybe cooperating and also helping us in that area. But so we thank him because he wanted to come to the Oceans Conference. He planned to come in February. He couldn't make it because we changed the date. But one of the things that when we had met him, he had to leave to a meeting because, as you know, cryptocurrency uses a lot of energy. In fact, they estimate that Bitcoin will soon consume as much energy as the entire country of Japan. That is not sustainable. And so he was, and I don't know enough about crypto and how they're mined and all of that, but he says all they have to do is change the code and they can be more environmentally sustainable. And he's all about how to be responsible. Cryptocurrency is good, but if you're burning that much power, and a lot of them are still based on coal, that's bad for the environment. So that's where Bitcoin and Ethereum are bad for the environment. So we've got to help them come up with a better way of doing those things because they were using so much power in China that it was affecting the grid. A lot of them have moved to the US. In Texas, there's lots of coal-fired plants there. Some of them are in Iceland. At least that's on geothermal, but we need to encourage the use of renewables and not destroy environment in mining Bitcoin. It's almost like the same as mining gold. So, yeah, I think that's the. So yes, it's the same Ripple.
My question about oil exploration.
Oh, oil exploration. So, first of all, the PNMS, there is no idea to mine oil within the PNMS area. The only oil exploration that ever has been discussed in Palau is within Kayangal's 12-mile zone. So that's a question you need to ask Kayangal if they want to do it or not. But it's, as you know, state resources are under the states. But when we talk about the EEZ and the 24 miles beyond, that's way beyond any idea for oil exploration. That's why bottom sea trawling, deep bed sea mining, that's all has been outlawed, protected. So even the mammals, right? Like whales, dolphins, dugongs, all of those things.
To question mak to garatri minister ang sokal di clarity mo regel commitments eh. So kamle list kamle mention regel 7 commitments. Again siya lo sa regel 7 at tlo regel 410 total commitments.
I see.
Next question nga kamora Director of Public Health. Director ng kadang rablu ada direct malmi concern ra tiap close siya dal narbelaw. Wasit tiyak kalil ko ra ang event ang mauulang amor niya second wave ra surge ra COVID. Kada ngani news ra shell delegation at Taiwan, natwa ba online news ra Taiwan wasi half or tirgel doril delegation at Taiwan amne tested positive sa Taiwan. And then regional media reports amne report ra Ngel lulum ngel mle heda delegation of Fitchil mel ngel AG Attorney General mel direct mles mayor. So nganing sigil sa bekring rablu mang sel tial 30 miligramos mer tial tagoin klel ulel direct al bor ngel sel bekring rablu klel bor klamrang lo se klel pal ulel buk start a second wave ra increase ra at tagoy ra COVID.
So lang kambes ra malungil question rakaw. First haladik go over some of the numbers salgire la testing el milkat mokler sa gidel luguk ra ocean. So sel mle ra ocean beginning ra April 11 el mo o April 17 ng mlaning total test of 1,465 el milrule. I'm just going to talk about the ocean participants. So, tirigel ocean participants who tested positive, I'm 23. Out of the 23, and 7 are local. Local al participate ra ocean, I'm tested al positive, which means it was the 16 al adal na krel belal mlet move al me participate ra ocean. Amle tested positive. Jakal sabi akal kami tersel al cook situation na Taiwan landir ka kakora official communication del kimngay, but I can report al was say del do remember el delegation. I think that's the right number. Amle test till 2 days before arrival. Amle test al PCR. Ya test result tira dimle negative raw. So you know, with we know was ako with anywhere up to 14 days al move. We can't sell wasing tingilura belao or ang tingilura ser al arrive at Taiwan. But we do expect to was any time el boring a close second and it likely a little spurt search of cases. So monitoring it al week mo next week o mesel waseng ngaring akora increase in the number of cases. But so far last week al week cases ra local al adal met tested the non OOC participants have sort of remained the same as the previous week. Then we've been seeing a downward trend in the number of cases that's tested positive. So we're going to have to wait until at least the next week. Mesel wasing ngaring kora search the lingal mortal ocean conference. But I just wanted to report to was in dimle 16 of island guests when they arrived and when they did the pre-conference testing and they tested it positive. So I think 16 is a pretty low number, but as I said, we'll wait until next week. Mesel wasing ngaring kora number of cases wasing it's connected to the ocean conference. And the testing MHS made it so that testing was accessible at all times. So mlaring testing site nga PCC hospital remained open. Testing site hospital mlaring direct mlaring sel mobile team el marayla hotel el gukti accommodated tirigel VIPs direct we had a medical station الملك مدرا بينيول القوتي ملك accommodated تريجل other more symptoms so we did do a lot of testing links up a other tested multiple times that was offered wasing if you want to get tested every day and you can access either testing so again our preliminary numbers are reported all time.
So I think, Director, can you update the reader? Are we still in the hospitalized in the last 2 months?
Most of us, yes, ndiri ka adal mo hospitalized, ndiri ka death. Agi ultov da gimla kora limit ra, tegim limit agi ultov the numbers is la Tuesday or Friday. So this evening I could all the cell update and this so far ndiri ka death. We haven't had any deaths COVID related for quite some time, and same as hospitalization.
Yeah. Nanganak ra will daga other more hospital. So as I was saying, namo diwa tretter in some cases. And I think one of the things we can learn from this at Taiwan amal diga makasa cases ring. So you can see there was a lot of positive cases possibly with them because makasa cases the other bela. But probably most of us have already had it, but we don't know we've had it. You know, as Dr. Hancock would say, if there was a COVID to get, Omicron was the one. And if you get it, you're immune. So that's most likely why boosted, vaccinated, akti ora di share sa kita mo ada mo understand digel bulul wa Taiwan and digal wa se drama sing wasing cure spike actually ada Taiwan expect was in the month of May they might be hearing again numbers like Korea 500,000 600,000 a day so they're saying it's on the way and that's why they're already talking about maybe June July to open up more you know we need to go to the next phase and you know one of the things that I one of the things we need to help Pacific understand we need to move away from the paralysis that COVID has caused us. You know, the continual and unfortunately, the 1 hour room, one case, President because I have one case, but we need to help them understand that you need to face it, you need to move through it because eventually everybody's going to get it. And this was matter Ministry of Health. Dr. Hancock saw me in March, before I Mr. donors, he came here for a vacation. American Samoa, American Samoa, we're implementing the Palau plan. And Ministry of Health, example how to address COVID so congratulate and what they do to protect us and keep us safe and move through this so
lang presidente di ku spiritual te alek direct announce sigim la start the roll out the second booster so gi ulu spera chimra before but because of the ocean and gora I'm learning logistics issue kumam but el all time agim la umuulan marulering every Friday so selway al signal booster more tirigel of course ngaring priority group 50 age and above al siguma last or sum omngilura 4 months ago and you are eligible for your second booster so from for now I give the maruling yourself Friday for the oril mo 6 story sel community health center clinic across the Rakoror until agi kuk sort out al waseng ran excel basyo kipom muspering inding yes a second booster am la mo available kada mo ulan mo certificate 50 and above.
The last question nga kamora Minister of Education. Minister, President mentioned that the Ministry of Education is facing a shortfall of $1 million. So since able ko explain ni wasing tiyang magara mo shortfall.
The 10% cut.
Thank you for that question. It's not a pleasant thing to address. I come from an environment where you're not allowed to have a red bottom line. You must not break that line. we have broken that line. We've exceeded our revenue by about $260,000. Now, part of that is due to the expansion of our programs. Even though we have reduced staffing in our central office by over 17 people, unfortunately, because of the civil service requirements, when people retire, they receive a substantial severance benefit from their leave. So instead of recouping that entire amount, it was only a small percentage. So the reduction in staff didn't do what we had hoped it would do in terms of helping our bottom line. So that's why I met with the president and said, what are we going to do? And he has told me basically we're going to maintain our services and we're going to continue to do the best we can. We have been very fortunate because of one of our grants from the U.S. Department of Education. We were able to, we were under the requirement to begin a teacher certification course because of the grant required it. We were in actually a default status, which nobody seemed to realize, and we found that out. So what we were able to do was transfer money from one account, travel, into another account for teacher training, and that has paid for the University of Guam PCC MOE cadre. So that was one thing which we were able to do, which did not impact on our bottom line. But you cannot, what we are doing and have been doing for several years here is to show people, children, education is not important. We have not had new textbooks. We have students who are using science books from 1993. Now that is absurd. There has been a lot going on there. So we're making changes, and the original budget we did allocated enough money we had hoped to do 2 full course changes, which we have been able to do so to a certain extent. Number one, we are replacing all textbooks in our social sciences with new textbooks. Now we're not getting paper hardbound books. We're going with electronic books in the majority of those. The electronic books have significant advantages over the traditional books, so that if a student is reading and they're having difficulty reading, they can get vocabulary assistance within the book itself. Also, you avoid all the shipping costs, so we reduce our expenses in that way. The second project that we are looking at would be to improve our students' reading. That's one thing that seems to have been ignored over the past years, is that our students are almost all second language students, and we have not been teaching reading in any of our schools as a separate subject for many years. And we wonder why they're having difficulty in all of the subjects, because we're handing them textbooks, even though they're outdated, they're still written at grade level. And so a student who cannot read at grade level, we've got statistics to prove that over 75% of our students are reading at least 1 or 2 years below grade level. So you're handing them a book that they can't read, which doesn't help the situation at all. And the president has been very, very supportive in our moves to try to increase this. And so we will be implementing a new individualized computer-based reading program in the elementary schools beginning in July. So we have been able to find alternative forms of and reduce costs in terms of expenses. But our basic cost of personnel, we can't do much with. So that's why we are going to need additional support for the remaining years, because we have to make it all the way through October. And beginning again in July, we're starting a new school year, and so we always have a larger outputting in terms of materials and supplies. So we are expanding our programs, we're improving our programs, but all that comes at a cost. And I think everybody needs to really become aware that the long-term investment in education does have a negative impact on your population, because students are voting with their feet and they're leaving. And until we can get a school that meets their needs, it's going to continue.
So Aladik, let me just explain the shortage. So Minister says, and just to be clear, you haven't overexpended because you haven't used up this year's budget. This year's budget is for the full year, but we know that we cut the budget back by 10%. And 10% of 9 million is 900,000. That's where the shortage is coming from. So we do need a supplemental. And I think that's why I say the supplemental part of it is going to come from our conservation investors that have agreed that hopefully by the end of the month we have money so that the OEK can work on a supplemental to address these issues that we have, to make sure that we don't run short for education or health or police, because those are our most critical, and those state governments that are in need. So
President, in relation to that, sa OTMOE, ya rest government tawang ara status ring, financial status ring.
well, we cut everything by 10%. So everybody is asking, can we at least get our 10% back? I mean, that's the hope. But we need revenue. And unfortunately, the tourism has not picked up. Of course, oceans, I'm going to help a little bit this week, but we're still falling behind. So we're going to have to continue to hold back. Hopefully we have a little bit, we can work something out. But I know Minister is not here. He's at the ADB this week. Yeah, we're going to have to work something out before the end of the year and talk to our partners and try to come up with something.
Just follow up, talking about financial status. So you've always mentioned about alternative revenues and Palau has no money. How much is Palau's debt right now? Is Palau in the red? The debts, the rising debts and shortfall.
So are you asking from a budget, or you're asking about total debts for Palau? Because there's two separate things. So there's an annual budget that you pass, and to fund the budget, you have taxes, you have all kinds of revenue, plus loans that fund that budget. So that's what we're operating on this year. So 30 million of the budget, or maybe it's either 40 million, minister's not here, coming from loans, right? The previous year, we also got 40 million from loans to fund the budget. It looks like we're going to have to do that again next year because tourism is not coming back as fast. So that's just the reality that we live with. So the correct answer is we're not operating a budget deficit yet because we're using loans to cover that budget deficit, right? To make sure that we're balanced. However, we have more debt. So I've been saying this, that our debt now is equivalent to our GDP. Because we talk about the loans for COVID, we talk about the sewer loan, we talk about the fiber optic cable loan, Taiwan loan, there's loans everywhere. So yes, we have to diversify our economy. We've got to find different ways because we have a lot of loans to pay. And we need to talk to our partners about these loans too. Yes, we have a challenge. And COVID has made it worse. Besides, our pension debt also is another big debt that we're stuck with. So,
Sir, what about the promises of the other alternative sources of revenue? Your digital residency, and then there was a private bank, new private bank law. So those promises of the alternative sources of revenue, how will that bring in more revenues for Palau?
well, the good news is digital residency is already up and running. We've now reached over 1,000 digital residents, which has generated over $100,000. We know that there's still more that needs to be done. So that's why Minister of Finance asked for experts to help him to continue to build the ecosystem that this will help that industry grow and provide revenue to Palau. Just like the shipping registry. It took a while for it to begin, but now it generates, Minister, about 1.4 million a year. So this is part of the diversification that we need to do, is we need to be able to find alternatives to help us generate revenue, but more importantly, eco-friendly alternatives. So the private banking, same thing. That's not going to happen overnight. We got to establish the bank. We've got to bring in depositors, and then eventually we will make money off of that opportunity. So all of them take time. So just like the compact we're talking about now is 2024. It's not immediate, but it's an important part of our economic resilience that we need to be at the table and discussing, highlighting our challenges, and how we can partner with our partners and make sure that we get through this. So
Diri sabere, Mr. President tuloge rake.
yeah, namo 1 hour and 30 minutes makatawadi.
Gile Minister Robi ang mumargong. Sula Mr. President ma Minister Victor tial na divulsa tial Blue Prosperity Plan ang Malaysia tial urio fisheries belau. Tial fisheries industry ma tourism industry ay ga major revenue generating industry ra blue belau. Elagdam la masa experience gida tourism industry ndir gaga mal participation na other belau maran mutialu do ng tourism industry. Ila selguren sermin masada tial Blue Prosperity Plan kom di masada girela eso revenue meso isma. Hindi nga niya plan el girela investment el morar other belau la maktub aurelir el girela gagir el industrial kami amalasam el milisi. Nga niya plan lo bangela gagir el major industrial kami asamil el build en mol ngasura other belau. Le other belau de agad udin de agad resources tirel lo mula galurio. Se no me el tourism industry la gana umbre el 20 years Klulu do niya todo belau. El other belau de agad realize se maklung el audotal lo la rin magil mga government.
Kabong Minister.
Musulara maluel gere mudlong big part tial Blue Prosperity Plan na invest rar adre belau. Radya kadil daseng moringa bil singir mong moringa sio bartir, but more importantly gire de lo meselo asen tangarian adre belal soril mo ngartialo mangid mal sorir ang makara the trainer tir. Tial pulen line en mlea siabal adimla kadil beskida bilasam dong direk lo bangela trainer ko sing tangarian adre belal sa perir mo mara pulen line. O sisul mora tora aquaculture. O de direk lo rengal wasing moringar ngal gedel direk sa edel trainer tir el mo expert ra ella arma. Uktora sersra daveng toptogar adre belal la mo sersra kim. Mamtel direk gora omesra kuk sersra ngigla. Mong aigeya focus ra aguk development tel tora fisheries mo sing livelihood ra adre belau ngania ngara ngania ro ngara ala siobay ngania ro shares ngania ngara baby part tel do sing value chain ra fisheries aiga gidri kam assess lo sing ngara ngania adre belal sa mariar morngi mo ngara the trainer tin mo value adding mo imo export mo imo batoka te alanding di mo era adel ngari interested tir kwasen sabe edel lo ngasertir.
Sula Minister Victoria. Ta question amerga Mr. President ngari sel el joint resolution blal el adapting el House of Delegate elang ara Senate el kirel sel approval sel loan 20 million Meka Bangra, International Bangra Taiwan. El tilob dating la Senate President la newspaper na sesel ludoda en la resolution ma agreement el kumomoro lo bangela National Development Bank emol ngeura NDB pil lo gisera ngeura gisera other belauma lo lela livelihood ti. En tilob dating la Senate Presidente como interested niya de alborbabra 3%. Ngani agora plan ngani agora semel malo ay sengil. El girel seguid el 20 million kung wangara abolus niya NDBP or other bela.
I think a reference to los adri President Senate hindi ko sangara lul sa adri hindi 3% sell gida mo mangkadringil girel sell long. Gire del Mondolia se abanga has to cover its cost of overhead. So they're going to need to add another 3%. So hopefully after ang uti loan abang and say more reassess ay loan or tire on me 6%. That's what we hope they should be able to do. Girin mo mes ayel sumngaria loan al tamil expensive, for example ay gara European bank ma SS ngara 5%. Retire again replace lobang areo interest in ludo dem mokom mongang taigal interest rate and medio and help prarbek laadal tigel already area bleed, but at the same time new loans coming out them the reduction more appropriate. Housing loan mo do 6% and lagal 8. But again pala sira bang, but that's what we're hoping that with the excess money that they're going to get, it's an increase a housing loan and interested medio. Where it's about building the bank and making it stronger. And then really what they need to be able to do eventually accept the deposits. When they accept the deposits, they will pay 1%. And say mutu interest in medio na moringa audo balangail ngari olingin mansil reloan out ngari olingin. That's the ultimate goal. Kada malasam lisir tial bangyad NDBP masel asset private equity bank sila sis ba audo ngari olingin mansil den mo loan out eventually mutel mangta olingin merio.
Sula Mr. President tunggora ngani ala rela time tel NDPP giren mo sabi other deposit audo dungi. Yung Ramadan will enforce it.
The claim no sing song so do dir. Hopefully tiagi da el 20 million amo help pertir mo sabihin mo sige. Gira den encourage tir. Ako sa board ma management ala gira den lisi irsel the Sweden maral magtatal dong iring. Hopefully tiagi del 20 million as el help pertil get on the right path. Just to give you an idea, tell development bank rela already yellow no labam na alak 40 million. So it's a big bank. Namula kalkikar el bank. Tiam na mo call bank. Namuli nga confidence rado sa tia CCL bank. Namo sa ma deposit sel mo and move to the next level. Sula.
Adim lege gidia.
Yeah. Ya tiaman lo komang nem lamo erul sigang andi ko mara nga suli la media. Hopefully ka kay ngasel make sure fair and balanced news a minister agora filo asen bro dia modeng se ukto reng sa bibira ra mo kada mo kay ngasel dire kal upro sa minister ay gel dong ndi paral di mrenga suli ako trule sokal mutel mal mutel teal mrenga suli arbek la adar belaw artial na umre kal tal sande mutel me hosting raigal aigem le igual kadel kagaros la activity mila larisel Pacific Round Table mlani ako tulurior. And then mlani sel SIDS Global Business Leaders Forum mlani ongre tulurior. And then ako host ra ocean sera Wednesday Mother's Day. Maiga awal emro emle host ra youth. Emro campaign tiro mget ocean sa mong mran lepto activity di alim lagal lurtuir arbek laf. Magkita blol ko adim sa executive di adim lagar adal olbira kululal dire kam help pergi mar staff team le help mar adala agort judiciary tedire kam le help. Of course I got state governments a PCC dire gal arma sil belaw a chamber of commerce Peak Creek maigal betul NGO tedim nakal sa dugut makli maral di tel tel maral di mrenga suler bek laab ara umaral wasem successful conference edire galuk utel teal mo uranga sulir trigel el blolo no sergi drabek kal silsel lorior e uklo to bet silsel tirel al sils mangaria France tele ngara MPII minister madire gal dire un nombre kabur ngam nam tablo madire gal Edwin Aploy ma David Fakataw nara MHHS share madire gal Jerome Macreo sama Yoshi Aki Okabe ngara Ministry of Education. Let's wish them a happy birthday to Tokobet Celsius. Dire mrenga sulir service team muraqabal mentrigit. Edidru trorenga sulir arbek other belaw. Dong mudar arbek la adal mera asora el morira Eran melang lurior ra 3 o'clock rang run mut. Trigel most of real May damal mga mata kami rogul May. Idregal kadamo broadcasting live logi wa aikan radio station mang suilding argere ordering di kadamaran mereka sudah bekal other belau. Ya dia sudah makal tengah travel wada lo makal tengah tergi rogui ma next next week kadamo dibus. Next week kadamo dibus, di following week kadamo boda kasues. Next week yung kadamo dibus kadok mora cell meeting ergi dara JCM. Edire kan mora amrige le momitra ambassador ada special envoy yun marbira adol bira blur amrige. Madame ukto ay swasa kanam le meeting ergi. Man sulak.
Okay, kata na mira ulabong at yala press conference niya press conference del alchil sul 3 metul ko pasingila ang ewal buildra 2022 kaman lam saulo mes se orang setial press conference meiga.